Okay, so apparently it says that we are live and that it is live streaming to Twitch. I am just assuming that's the case, but I'm going to close out my browser just in case there's like echoes or anything. So while we're streaming this from Zoom, it's going to be a little different because we're not going to be able to see the chats. So one thing, while we wait for people to show up, I am, and also before I introduce our guests, I'm just looking on my phone to just make sure that it is in fact appearing and I see my face, which means something is working. And if I click on that, am I able to see the chat room? I am. So if you are to want to chat, well, Twitch wants me to download the app. That's okay. We'll just check in. And also, please don't let that stop you from commenting, because as we're talking, I'm going to be learning, and this has been a learning process. One of the things that I'm learning in this very moment is that I guess I can't see the chat without downloading the app. So the app is downloading. Everything's great. We're here. So before I don't want to jump right in. I am trying to learn about the whole Twitch streaming unwritten rules of how it all works. And it seems that people sort of give some time for others to show up. And that's, if you see me looking down, it is because I am checking that I can see your chats, because I would hate for you to have questions. And we have 2 viewers, which is awesome. And maybe those viewers will be able to tell me, can you see my chat when I say hi? So I just sent a hi. Okay, that means we got to go. So I'm not looking at the chat, but I will be checking in on it. So please get, if you're not following us, give us a follow. And I guess I'm just going to stop killing time, since there's people that are already here. Thank you for joining us. So as you may notice, this is a slightly different setup. I'll get into that later when I'm live streaming about my technical learnings for the day. But for now, I want to tell you just a little brief thing about today's show. So also, if you're new to watching our live streams, I tend to burp when I'm live from anxiety. And I always joke, like, I didn't kill anybody. Like, if you've seen the Jinx, like, that's not why I'm burping. And I keep saying I'm going to have a burp counter, and I haven't had it yet there. So that was one. So both of the ladies that we are going to be talking to today have been super involved in axe wound or just general, I'd say axe wound for sure, but also just connection through the community. And we haven't actually talked face to face, I don't think, since being in person in 2016, possibly. Well, we'll find out. But not only are we going to be talking about the short film Heartbeat that was written and directed by Diana Porter, who is also an actress, which we'll talk about, because she has been featured in many of the films that have screened at Axe Wound and then moved to directing as well. But so has Andrea, has film screened, and I think she's a producer on this project. I actually know for a fact she is. And there's a story behind this film that is both personal for Diana, but there's a whole reason this film came to be. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So when I found that Diana was open to doing this, I said, is it okay? Can I bring in Andrea? Because I would love to talk about this story, and we can't do it without the person who's sort of, I think, she can correct me if I'm wrong, was the impetus for that. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Diana Porter, who can magically appear on camera at any time, and Andrea Wolanin, who can magically appear at any time. And I hope I said your last name right, Andrea, because all day long, I feel like I've been saying it wrong.
It's okay. Everybody does.
I always forget to ask before I go live.
Yeah, no worries. It's I usually pronounce it Wolanin. It's Polish, so technically it's Wolanin, but Wolanin is the accepted Americanization.
Okay, Wolanin. Got it.
I'm totally pronouncing it the Polish way from now on.
Yes.
Say it again.
Wolanin.
Wolanin.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I like that. If only like my brain had like a memory left. In like 2 minutes, I'm going to be like, what was your last, who is this? So yeah.
Andrea and I, in addition to creating films together, also like to eat your Eastern European food together.
Yes.
That is our go-to adventure. So
I didn't know that.
Being we're both of Polish heritage. So
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then maybe I won't forget that then. Since you guys are on here, if you see me look down at any point, it's because, as you guys know, we're doing this slightly different than in the past, where I can't see people watching as we're streaming, and that's a whole other story. But every once in a while, I'm checking and seeing if people are able to hear us, and it looks like we do have people in the chat, and if they just want to confirm that everyone on camera right now is, you were able to hear and there wasn't any weird echoes, let us know, because I'll keep
tell us your favorite Eastern European dish.
Yes, that if you do that, if all good, we're getting all good so far. We've gotten it all good so far. And you guys can hear us. Oh, you guys are the best. Thank you for being here. So this is going to be an interesting conversation, and I actually don't know where to start, because I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah.
And usually when you have a conversation like this, and that goes for not just the impetus for the one law situation, but I'm calling it a situation because I didn't want to say, again, I don't know what to call anything.
You're good.
But also because I don't want to give anything away, and I also don't want to get too personal, and we are live. So if at any point my frustrating brain decides to like say something and you guys are like, oh God, please stop. Like, just, put a hand up and just be like, say a dish, say the name of a dish. And I'll know to shut up. So
our safe word is pierogi.
You hear that, everybody? The safe word of this episode is pierogi.
I don't think it is possible for me to discuss Heartbeat without being personal. It's an incredibly personal movie, and I don't mind being personal about it. And it's been out for a few years now, so I maybe I won't tell the very, very ending, but we're past spoiler limit at this point.
That's a good question. I think that I've come to the decision that if you're watching an interview about a film, it would be kind of a bummer if you didn't include spoilers, because then you can't really get into the meat of the film. So yeah. I don't want to
since it's not currently live with Axewound, correct?
Correct.
I think what I'm going to do is put it live on my website probably tomorrow. So if anybody wants to check it out, they can do so.
Oh, can I ask if don't answer live, because there's no pressure. So you don't answer live, even if the answer is yes. Because then I won't ever know if it was because of pressure or not. So just don't answer. Okay.
Okay.
I would love to stream it on Axon TV one time before, or while it's on. It doesn't matter if it's there or not, but if we could add it to it wouldn't live there forever. It would probably live there for like a day or two, but have a stream and then include it with the upload with this interview or with clips from it, or I don't know, we'll talk. So don't say anything. Anyway, I also want to ask Andrea that same question, so don't answer. Andrea, we were just talking about the personal nature of the film. Now, first off, you were a producer. Aside from the One Law thing, you were involved in this film, Heartbeat, right?
Yes, I was so just a brief overview of One Law was a project.
Oh, you're jumping in already? I was gonna tease it.
Just because, okay, if you want to tease it, I can wait.
No, let me just then let you go for it and say that now you are going to tell us what this whole One Law thing is.
Yeah. So basically One Law was a while ago, when Trump first came into office, one of the things I was really struggling with as an artist was, what could I do? Because as an artist, sometimes when you're in that situation where it feels so daunting and like it's way beyond your grasp, and you're making phone calls and petitioning people and marching and walking and all that stuff, and you're showing up, but it sometimes starts to feel like there's no movement forward, and I feel like that was a very bleak time for a lot of us. And Dahlia, who goes by Porcelain Dahlia or Dahlia Lama Films, is a director in her own right. She and I sort of started talking about this, and we thought, what is our art and what is our power behind our art? And we really thought, making films that embrace laws that aren't too far off the fact of what we're seeing with predominantly red governments. What does that look like, and what does that really mean? And we produced, we wound up finishing 3 out of 5 films.
Can I interrupt
Yep.
and back up a little bit?
Yep.
So first off, I totally wish that I had thought to, like, why isn't she here right now? So
she's in London, so she's probably
they are living in London for a couple of months, and on a totally different time schedule. So
so then I don't have to feel like
they're in our hearts though.
Yes, they are. And I am sorry that I didn't think to invite them, and they are invited in spirit in every way possible. And yes. Okay.
Yes.
So I wanted to back up because I think if people didn't know, I mean, we all know what this project was because you reached out to me about it, but I think there's, I actually put this aside. So on November 5th, I have my Axe Wound Film Festival program, and that's where I decided to keep my, can't see it through it, but it has my I voted sticker on it from that year. And that was 2016, November 5th. And I remember that festival year having the most wonderful experience, feeling super like empowered, being around all of these amazing women at the festival, and then just feeling like the world was over. And it was like such a high, it was just such a weird time. And then you had reached out, Andrea, and you had said, if you could come up with a law, if you could create a law that you think might exist in the Trumpian government in 4 years, was that what it actually, the actual assignment was? What's a law that you think could or might exist, and tell the story in a short film with that law? Mm-hmm. So the project then had filmmakers working on, how many did you say originally?
So we had reached out to 5 people, and we wound up, I think, producing and finalizing 3 of the final films. And just to rewind for a second, apologies for mispronouncing Dahlia back there. I am an elder millennial with a head cold. So not that that's an excuse, but I'm trying. Sorry about that. So they had produced one as well. I don't believe that theirs has made it to film festivals, but it was an interesting film that they shot. And then Rochelle Cook also had a film that has made the rounds in the festivals as well. And then Leica Lucian was one of the other filmmakers in that. We shot her film, but I don't believe it has finished going through editing. And anybody watching this who's like, it's been a while, sometimes stuff gets stuck in editing, as I'm sure everybody has experienced who's a filmmaker. So that was the general gist of the project. And I think, you know, the pieces that we got out of it, while the project itself didn't move on, Dahlia and I were very happy with the pieces that ended up making it to the festival circuit.
Is there I'm sorry, go ahead.
It 100% pushed me off into being a director, and now I've directed enough projects that I've stopped counting. So I am endlessly grateful. It's nice that something good came out of that election.
Yeah, and I mean, I think too that just to back up also is that you, Diane, were part of Axe Wound as you were like in multiple films that as an actress that screened at Axe Wound. Like you were like, it'd be interesting to get someone on the data on that of how many films you appeared in. And you were great in all of it. And
thank you.
Does Dahlia still go by the name? Does Dahlia still go by Dahlia? Okay.
Yes.
Because Dahlia was also in films and then directed as well. So it was interesting that shift. But I love that when you were there in person screening Heartbeat, because you were talking about how, you know, you had to make this movie, and it was like it's like you had to do it. You had to do it.
Yeah.
And
when Andrea contacted me with the concept for the collection, I immediately, like, I think it was over email. I don't know if you remember, Andrea. And I immediately responded, dibs on reproductive health and reproductive rights. And I had the first draft. I sat down and I just I had the first draft of the script, like I vomited it. I think it took me like an hour. It was ridiculous. And I did 1 or 2 rounds of edits before we shot. Now, it was my first film. I have learned a lot since then. I've actually spoken to my editor, Michael Whistler, about like, hey, you know, how about after we finish the current thing, why don't we go through and do another cut? Because I feel like I could trim a little fat. And I think that's one thing that almost every indie director that I've spoken to, that's the thing that they learned. Like everybody had to learn that. Like not everybody wants the length that you want. Most people are like, this could move on a little faster. So yeah.
As a person who runs a film festival, bless you for that, because there is nothing more painful than having to not take a film because it's slightly too long and doesn't have to be that long. And you never want to say to an artist, can you edit your film? So shorter, the better.
Oh, no.
Shorter, the better.
I am preaching that to every festival I go to now. I'm like, yeah, so any film that's over 15 minutes, does that really belong in a shorts program? And it's brought up some interesting conversations. There is a film I saw that's very similar to my current film, and we both liked each other's films, but his was more than twice as long as mine.
Ooh.
And it moves along. It's well paced. Like it didn't feel long.
Right.
But it was an interesting mental exercise to be like, well, what could you cut?
It's one of the things that I don't even know that it could be a new filmmaker thing, but I think it's also a filmmaker thing. Like,
oh yeah. Oh no,
I don't know that all filmmakers
I've seen
want
the Zack Snyder Justice League. Like, no, There are
It's-
some things that it's good that that directors don't do their own editing without input from anybody, because we would all be watching 4-hour-long movies
Yeah,
with
and it doesn't help the story.
with Jason Momoa slow-mo walking down a pier, which, you know, he's shirtless.
I haven't seen it,
goes
so
by
I
quick
can't
enough.
say, but yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting topic of conversation is the length of short films and programming. But
And
I'm one,
apologies to Jason Momoa for objectifying him, but
you've gotten
yeah.
us canceled, and we just started. And this is and we're done.
Jason Momoa and I can have a discussion about my usage of his slow-mo walking shirtless through water is as the as something that may not be necessary to a film, but no one seems to mind.
No, and it made it into the director cuts, right? So is that
Yeah.
so speaking of, and I guess not speaking of him shirtless, so so you I remember you talking about how the so I guess I don't know how to talk about this project without saying like I really wish that it had we had been like it had been able to, but people were also like, if I remember, like I think there was just like a lot of, for me at least, like hopelessness feeling at certain points. I know like there were just so many barriers that because you had invited, I was so shocked that you invited me to be part of it. And I think my law, mine was about outlawing LGBTQ. Was that right? Was it like?
Yeah, yours was sort of conversion therapy
Right.
script. And I actually really enjoyed it as a script. I thought it was intelligent because it's tackling something that actually does happen. That's not a law, but sadly
Right.
happens far too often in our country. You know, and I thought it was a smart one.
It was, yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about these laws, and one thing I wanted to do was to talk about what the laws were and then take a look at what we were thinking in 2016 and then what's the reality, and just how fucking insane it is that probably all of them had a news story associated with them in real life.
Yeah.
Like, let's just talk Heartbeat, which for those, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, would you just tell people what happens in Heartbeat just to get the law explained?
Certainly. So Heartbeat centers on a lovely couple who are very excited to be pregnant for the first time. And they go for a required ultrasound, which they're optional currently, but this was a legally required ultrasound at 7 weeks to confirm the baby. And unfortunately, the fetus was not viable. But in this world, it is illegal to have a miscarriage. All miscarriage is considered manslaughter on the part of the mother. So the mother, who went in very happily thinking she was pregnant, is being held, and the father-to-be is comforted and offered legal counsel if he'd like to divorce her, and all sorts of things like that. And it goes on from there. It was partially based on my own very real experience of having a miscarriage and how not prepared women are, because it's not something that's spoken of. It's very, very, very common. And you don't find that out until you have one. Yeah. You have a miscarriage and you find out that you are part of a huge club of women that you already know and didn't know that they had miscarriages. And many of them are already mothers. They went on to have healthy children after that. And a lot of people, they have miscarriages and they don't even know they had miscarriages.
Exactly.
They
a lot
had,
of first
the world's worst
pregnancies.
period.
Yeah, a lot of first pregnancies are statistically can be miscarriages. Yeah.
So with Trump and Pence being elected, yeah, my mind my mind went very much to reproductive freedom and what will happen to people in the future who have uteruses and get pregnant, and whether or not they want the child. I wanted to take it a little bit out of abortion, though it is still highly reflective of abortion, but looking at women as more than incubators, and that losing a pregnancy is natural and normal, and to say that abortion is murder is to say that all women are, not all women, but people who get pregnant and then lose a pregnancy are committing manslaughter.
And what of your period? I mean,
yeah. And I often use the term women, and know that includes everyone who can get pregnant.
I'd say menstruating people,
yeah,
or people able to get pregnant. I think that works. Yeah.
It's close to my heart, having gone through miscarriages and also having been introduced to reproductive rights very early on. My mother went to a march on Washington for pro-choice rally, and like I was like 12 and was learning all about that, and it's always been something that I knew was important, and it's a basic human right. It is treating people as human beings with the right to control their own body and make their own decisions. So I wanted to do that.
And it's very interesting when you look at, not to go on a tangent, but when you look at like the way those psychopathic Republican people were like, you can't make me have a vaccine. It's my body. I can do it. And I'm like,
yeah.
Hello. Do you not see a parallel here between your what about, like, it's just like the fact that people can't intrinsically control their own body is unbelievable.
Yeah. And I understand that many of those people are they think that they are speaking up for a child who can't speak for themselves.
Right.
And it's an issue that I think is gray, unfortunately.
Which part? I think I lost, like, I got a little confused for a second of what we were specifically talking about.
The situation itself, it's cloudy. Like, we can point to scientific evidence of certain things, but
wait, which situation though? I mean, like, literally
abortion and reproductive rights.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't talking about the vaccines or like abortion. No. Where are we at here? Okay.
No, vaccines. It's just like, for Christ's sake, people. That I feel like is community engagement. Like, do you want to be a part of this community? Then get the vaccine. But if you're able to. But the abortion issue it's a spiritual issue. People do honestly believe, and I think that their hearts are in the right place a lot of the time.
Sometimes.
But it can be difficult, and I hope that my film and other things like it can maybe open things up a little and help them see things from a different perspective.
That's a really good way of putting it. I think my antagonizing feelings come out when I worked at Planned Parenthood for 10 years. And so it's been a topic that I've talked and thought about for a very long time. And I'm okay with, like, if somebody doesn't believe in abortion for themselves or it's not right for them, but it's when you start putting it into a law that doesn't affect that. That's when it's like, if you don't want to have an abortion, don't have an abortion, but don't tell this person that they can't have an abortion. That's where I'm at.
I agree completely. Yeah. And most people, the vast majority of Americans agree, but there are some people, and then I like break down the small subset of people who don't that think that abortion is horrible and wrong. There's a portion of them who think that they are protecting someone who can't protect themselves. And then there's a portion that are just fighting because they're fighting.
Because they don't like
And
women.
yeah, and they don't necessarily realize that.
No,
They don't,
it's not conscious.
I don't think, yeah, I don't think most of them are thinking it through. I think that the misogyny is just so ingrained in them. And the
Mhm.
misogynistic beliefs are so a base of who they have become that they can't get away from it, and they can't see from outside of it.
I will
So.
tell you, many of those folks, they get abortions. Let's just put it that way. Then they go right back
Yep.
out on that picket line.
Ugh.
I'm not breaking
That-
any
that
rules
I-
here by saying that, by the
Yeah.
way.
That boggles my mind. Like, that just complete like lack of self-introspection and just being
It's
able to
okay
be
for
like,
me, not you though.
yeah, like, I don't care if I'm a hypocrite. Like, really? You don't?
It's shocking. This is so shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what were some of the other laws then that were we have, because I just think you did such a great job of making, I guess I'm spoiling things, so if you want to mute me briefly, but the ending with just the trappedness of it, there's nowhere to go here except being at your body being owned by the government, unless you want to break a law and risk dying or going to jail or whatever. It's like, what the fuck? So before we actually get into Andrea, me asking that question, I wanted to mention that and I don't have, I can't believe I don't have it to pull it up right now, but an actual news story of a woman, I'll add it in the show notes, who was accused of murder for having a miscarriage. Excuse me, that was burp number 2 for people keeping track. So, and I'm sure there's other stories like that as well, but it's crazy to me that these things that people think, oh, those crazy feminists coming up with this, like, and then it's like, oh, really? Could we have predicted QAnon? Like, crap, like it was so much worse than I think we even imagined it would be. Yeah. Would you agree with that, both of you?
Yeah, and the story about the woman, I shouldn't say the story, the woman who was arrested and tried for manslaughter of her fetus, that came up. I became aware of it while we were in post-production, and
oh shit,
editing a film that's partially based on your own most traumatic event. Like we were talking earlier, sometimes post takes a long time. Like I kept being like, I need a break. And like for 3 months, I wouldn't be addressing the film. And then that started happening. And I was like, yeah, I can't, I gotta.
So that must be what you were talking about at the festival, when I remember you saying that there was a point where you were like, I have to finish this film. Like, yeah, okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
It became, it lit a fire under me to get the film done while it was still a dystopian future and not a documentary.
Yeah, which, I mean, God, it's not amount of things that I can say, but we'll be preaching to the choir here. So what were other laws then that were thought of, and where are you allowed to give that info?
Yeah. So other laws that were done, Diana's was based on reproductive rights. Dahlia's film was based around women's sexual freedom. For instance, women being able to have a say in their own how they marry, how they have sex, what sex looks like to them.
I see.
And then Rochelle Cook's, which is the other film that made it to the festival circuit, was called Woke, and that one was very poignant, I thought, because it one of the things that I love about Rochelle is her perspective is so original from so many people's, and her piece was about a dystopian, far in the future, land where Earth is abandoned, and a woman finds herself walking through this abandoned Earth landscape and is trying to figure out what happened to all the other people, and essentially finds out that Black women have been abandoned by the rest of the human race and left
Oh shit! Wow.
on Earth to figure themselves out, basically, and
Wow.
that just sadly grows more and more poignant every year. So that film is really interesting. She makes a lot of interesting points there, and she discusses a lot of stuff that I, as a white Latina, was not aware was an issue in the Black community. And I thought that was very interesting.
Maybe we should get her also to join for a follow-up episode.
Yeah. She's great, and she's a lot of, if you get her going, she has a lot of strong opinions.
Yeah, she's an alumni of Axwound, so
yes,
it'd be totally appropriate to bring her on.
Yeah, she's great. And then Leica's was about women's education and access to education through the lens of technology access, which is, again, an interesting thing when you look at it through lenses of certain communities, like poor communities where there are people who still don't have computers, and to those of us who are, middle class and up, that seems insane, but it's not. It's not.
No, absolutely. It's everything you've said. Oh, go please. Sorry.
I think a lot of people became more aware of that because of the pandemic, when the kids started doing school remotely.
Yeah.
I know in my town, there were schools that were like, great, we'll do remote school. And because there's 9 different elementary schools in my town, just to explain a little. And the ones in the more affluent parts of the city were like, oh yeah, no, the kids will just do it from home. And then the ones in the non-affluent part were like, these kids don't have computers.
Or horrible Wi-Fi access.
And multiple siblings, where
totally
the more affluent areas, the average is 1 or 2. In the less affluent area, it's more like 3 or 4, and they share bedrooms, and there's a lot more logistical issues. So the people who are paying attention got an education. Sorry, that was kind of a pun. A very unfunny pun.
None of this is funny, so it's okay.
None of it.
None of this is funny. But it is kind of, people are always saying how hysterical, like, women are hysterical with you think this is going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And, having lived through talking about that back in 2016 and trying to imagine things, I feel like we couldn't really ever, because just hearing you name off of the things that you said, it's like so much worse in a way now, where it's like, even though maybe those specific things haven't happened, like with, one group of people being left behind on the planet or that kind of thing. But metaphorically speaking, I mean, I feel like those laws really all touched on reality later down the line, and stuff that maybe we could not have conceived of. I mean, do you guys think that I'm overreacting, that it was worse than you pictured, or is it the same? Like, I feel,
for me, I think one of the things that was notable for me is that a lot of the scripts, when you read them, when we had been doing this, it was like a big part of the anthology craze, but one of the ones that we kept going back to, Dahlia and I, is Black Mirror.
Right.
And when you watch Black Mirror, a lot of the time you're like, that's crazy, that would never happen. And then you're like, wait, it's almost happening here. Or wait, that's pretty close to the truth in this case. Or, you know, and I think that was the case here, is we were reading these scripts and they were often, with the exception of Heartbeat, oftentimes set in a post-apocalyptic dystopian future or like a close to apocalyptic future. And but the stories they were telling really weren't, you know. I mean, I think something that we see often is you know, I always reference, and I know it's not a woman, but Philip K. Dick, and how he was writing stuff in the 50s that is, I mean, you know, so pertinent to today. And when you read it in the 50s, you would have been like, this man is crazy. You know.
Right. Well,
Gene Roddenberry did it with Star Trek. He was discussing issues of the time set in space and blowing them out to strange proportions, but they still 100% ring true, and so much of it has come true. I mean, that's sci-fi in a nutshell. That's what it does.
It's also being aware of history. And I think I spoke about this on a live stream recently, but you know, growing up Jewish, I was always like, you know, how could the Holocaust have happened? How could you know, it's just like, and I think most people who like, there's those who are like uncomfortably fascinated by it, and then those that are like studying it historically, and it's like, there's this mystery of like these people just rising up and deciding we're going to take out millions of the Jewish people and other people, you know, just genocide, you know, gay people, Jews, you know. And I remember thinking, you know, my whole life, like, just how did that happen? And I think watching and studying Hitler's rise and Trump's rise, the parallels were so bizarrely similar, where it starts as a joke and then people kind of get in on it, and then you slowly get desensitized to one thing, and then you get a little more desensitized to something else, and the next thing you know, people are saying that like the president is a hologram, and that's like real news, you know, and like storming the Capitol, and it's like people in, you know, could look and say, what brought people automatically to go crazy on the Capitol? It's like, you watch this, like, I feel like I was able to understand history more of how things happened by living through the times we're living in now, is because it's like, you just get people comfortable slowly enough with things that are just batshit until the world is just batshit. You know, and I think that that's sort of what I have taken from this, is maybe understanding history a little more.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's the frog in the boiling pot of water situation, where you're fine with the heat until you're dead, you know. And I mean, or you know, in 5,000 years we'll be saying it's the humans on their dying planet Earth situation. You're fine with the heat until you're dead. And you know,
I'm not fine with the heat.
No. But it's you know, it's one of those things where I think stuff happens slowly and over time. You know, they take away Roe v. Wade, and we're like, well, something else will come along, and it's like, you know, what is it, another 6 years, 5 years, maybe then abortions just aren't legal, and we're taking boats to Ireland to get abortions, which, like, you know, sorry, that was a comparison.
Backwards is that?
Exactly, that was my comparison of Ireland not having abortions be legal till like the 90s.
That was way more recent. I think that is even more recent than the 90s.
I think it was the 2000s.
Yeah.
But yeah,
how many women will die because of it, between, you know, just
are dying right now?
Yeah, exactly. It's
and I you know, I moved to Canada, and I hate to tell you guys, it's not better, it's worse almost. So in fact, So I'm not even going to get started on the Canadian healthcare system because that's a whole nother topic, but just don't ever think moving here is going to be an answer because in fact, you will probably die quicker. But that's just a side conversation for a thing. But if you think that coming to Canada for an abortion is an option, it is absolutely not, because the access here is no better. And it's really terrifying when you think that realize every country is just fucked. Like, it's like you like to think there's like a utopian country somewhere where things are right and some are better than others by far. But there is just, it's weird to come to a time in life. I mean, let me back up. I don't want to say how old, I don't know how old you guys are, or like, you know, I'm 41, but like, I was born when abortion was legal. And now you have a generation who was born when abortion was legal and saw it taken away from that. Like, there's people who are like, I don't know, there's something that's so freaky to me about like the young 20-year-olds who are like born with a right and then see it be taken. And then the people who were born and didn't have it as a right, like my mom's generation, and then trying to say to my generation, like, don't take this for granted, you know, this is, and then watch as complacency sets in, because when you're born with rights, I think you think that those rights are just inherent. And then you get into like, okay, well, it's, you know, this might be legal, but who really has access to it? And, you know, it's, I think that this has been, yeah.
I've heard that feeling expressed a lot by older gay people about younger gay people.
Oh, say more about that.
The gay people who were already in their 20s in the 70s and living through Stonewall and living through the AIDS crisis when it was the AIDS crisis. And now seeing gay kids being able to marry, having treatments that are effective, and acting like AIDS is no longer an issue, even though it really is. And all the things that have happened, and having to remind the younger gay people, like, Pride Parade is, it's the celebration of how much we have fought for and how hard we fought. And it's not just about glitter rainbows and hooking up. We like that too, but
just remember what you're doing it for.
Yeah. I have heard that many times, and I'm sort of in between the two generations, whereas like I remember a lot of those things. I certainly remember the AIDS crisis and Ed Koch and all of that because I grew up in New York. But it wasn't, but I wasn't part of the fight. I was, 12.
Well, that's the other thing too, is you also realize things differently based on the communities that you're in and the background of, your family's background, and where you like, not everyone can really, I think it's just, everyone I think is just so, the world is this, and if this is the world around me, this is the world for everyone. But when we think about like the one law thing, how specific it was to America, because some of the laws, I'm thinking of Dahlia's, other countries where that is the case, like, I mean, or not being able to go outside with your face being shown, or
that's what's going on in the Middle East right now. It's part of what makes me so grateful for film festivals like Axon and filmmakers like Rochelle, that it lets me have a momentary view on another person's perspective, and it makes my world wider and more informed.
I love that. And Andrea, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do obviously know about the terrible things happening in Iran at the moment, but I do want to say, some people, of course, cover their faces by choice, which is something
that's different.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah, that
different.
I'm sure we all respect.
Totally.
Yeah, but I do think, one of the plans that we had was, had this been a feasible web series, we wanted to gather more input from international filmmakers, because these were all, in some ways they were all very American issues at that moment. I think most of them have been issues for a lot of countries at a lot of different
But
moments.
that was the
in
point,
time.
though. What does a Trump America look like?
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Right.
But it is something where, I think we are still seeing a global conservatism in a lot of cases, in a lot of places. And I think, that is something that I'm nervous people are growing complacent with again, because it's blue now in a lot of our government, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, because it'll change again. And we're, if we just stay like this for 2 more years, then it just means they keep going further down and we keep having to dig ourselves further out. Right. So I think there's a lot. There's a lot.
And you also kind of wish that, without going on another tangent, that people who have control can actually make things happen. Because that's another really kind of important thing that would be nice to see. And to clarify again, yes, I want to be super clear. My comment about the face covering,
I knew what you meant. We knew what you meant.
Talk about the women who do not have a choice.
Yeah, I was clarifying for you.
I'm married into a Muslim family, and then this is a conversation that my husband and I talk about frequently. And I think that, it's actually an issue that is big in Canada versus the States, because when they say, you can't have religious item stuff at school in the United States, like you can't pray and that kind of stuff. Here, there's a whole thing about it, but it was like what you wear and how that ended up being discriminatory, And so it's everywhere everything is so nuanced. And I think one of the problems is that a lot of people are stupid. And I just I'm sorry, but it's just a fact.
Not wrong.
A lot of human beings are stupid. And I'm not saying I'm brilliant. And I'm not saying that I'm the smartest person. But I don't think I'm stupid, but there's just a lot of stupid people. And they don't know what the word nuance. You don't have to know the actual definition of nuance, but the concept of nuance, it's like it's either this or it's this, and that's it. And there's no critical thinking. There's no good education. It comes down to the education system. It comes down to everything, but there's
I would say I agree with you that we do have a lot to make up for in our education system in the US. I will say, though, I know a lot of, people who are very highly educated,
who are stupid,
who have gone to the best schools in Massachusetts, where we already have really high education rates. And
they're
come out of them and their thinking is black and white, It's
because education, which is a good point, book smarts and critical thinking, intelligence, emotional intelligence, empathy, the ability to give a shit. I think COVID taught me that I was way more optimistic about humanity than when I saw how many people were like stabbing people over wearing masks. I'm like, okay, either there's way more stupid people than I thought, or the oxygen levels are so bad outside that we're just all slowly going crazy.
Yeah. I will say, I do think it is important to have hope about humanity.
I don't want to knock it.
No, I know. I do, as somebody who is a nihilist, me saying that is kind of
join me on the existentialist absurdist side and leave the nihilism behind.
I'm an existentialist in the streets and nihilist in the sheets, so you're good. Is
that on a t-shirt yet?
No, it should be. It might be.
It should be, and then like a little praying mantis.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Pretty much.
I see fundraiser t-shirt for whatever your next project is.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
The Andrea quotes t-shirt.
Yes.
That's your favorite quote. Anyway, I was
I
just
love
gonna
it.
say, I think, despite being a nihilist, I think that if we don't have hope for humanity as a species, that is not a healthy thing, right? As a species.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just this afternoon, I was watching a documentary, or at the beginning of it, about composting, because I'm part of an initiative to get composting more prevalent in my city. And Woody Harrelson is talking about how he's lost hope for the earth, but then he found out about how incredible compost is, which it really is. If you don't know about compost,
Oh,
like
yeah.
really know about compost, like study up. It's pretty amazing. But he's like, it's given me hope again. And it's like, that's how they start this documentary that I need to finish watching.
That could also be on a t-shirt, that compost gives me hope. I mean,
And then me burying a body.
yes, exactly. Well, one fascinating topic of conversation for another time is the green death, green death. That I made that up.
Soylent Green?
The movement and the death industry, where there's cremation versus burial.
Oh, yeah.
That composting and laws that are being pushed for human composting, which is better than cremation is so bad for the environment. And I can't imagine burial is really great for space and the environment.
I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit divided, because of course I would want to be composted, but my family burial plot, where I already have a spot that was purchased by my great somebody, is in Valhalla, New York.
I've never heard of that.
I am guaranteed a place in Valhalla when I die.
Heard of that part of New York.
Yeah, I want to go and fight my enemies all day and then drink mead with them at night. And I don't feel like I can give that up. Oh yeah. And people in my family have died, and we've gone and we've buried them there.
So when you die, you're gonna, where you're gonna be.
I've seen the spot. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm wondering if I can get composted and then spread on all of my family members.
That would be cool. Yes.
You can cut back on the fertilizer. Diana's here, which says something else about me. But anyway.
That is so weird to know. I mean, not weird, oh, that's weird. It's actually not weird, but just thinking about the concept unusual. Of knowing where you will be.
For our generation, it is definitely unusual.
Yeah, but this is another topic I would love to get into on Agswin TV with people, about the death positive and environmental movement with bodies, and how they're, because it's really fascinating, just like composting. It's very fascinating. Death composting. That'll be the time I ask you back. So I'm just looking real quick at the time. It is, we started at 5:30ish, I believe. And I'm just looking at the chat and seeing if anybody in the chat would like to, it looks like I have to redo my, what's that called? Why don't I ever know words when I'm live? I forget words.
You're checking to see if anyone in the chat wants to go get pierogies with Andrea and I.
Yes. Is there any pierogi takers? And we do have viewers, but it might be on a delay, so I'll give them a minute if they want to ask questions. And also feel free to send questions after the fact, because this is going to be added to YouTube in an edited version with clips from the film, and maybe I can pry some imagery from Andrea of script screenshot covers or something I'm really into archiving the existence of things that were undertaken in this. And so just I feel like this project should be memorialized in some way.
Thank you. I feel like we have some stills. I can dig into the vaults for them and see if I can find them.
Maybe we could show them all somehow.
I don't know. I would have to search for them now. I don't know where they're kept. Yeah. No,
Okay.
it's a little bit, I have, I'm also, so I produce and direct, and I'm also a still photographer. So there's a lot of
You have a lot
data I
going
would
on.
have to comb through to
Oh my
find.
God. And you are
find it.
also, just people watching who are familiar with Axwind, you also have a film on our VHS tape that we did.
Yes, I do.
Which
I think it's Cleaning House, or is it?
yes, it is.
Yeah.
My husband just got
I'm in
home.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
I am.
Wait, are you?
She's the
I'm one of the
first,
homeowners.
yeah, she's one of the homeowners.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, you're not one of the main characters. So,
No.
No.
okay. So here you go, guys. We're gonna start ending the show now, but I want to just say this. We will be posting later. We're going to do research to find out how many films Diana has been in that have played at Axwound. And Andrea, you have also played or been producer of multiple films.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look for those numbers. And I think that will be just like fun to know, because
Yeah.
it's just very, I just to be personal for a minute, like, y'all know I'm crazy, and I do not like, I'm a frustrating human being, and I'm say that not as like a don't say, oh no you're not, no, like I'm genuinely a frustrating human being, and I have struggled. My husband just got in the house and he's trying to chime in with me talking about being a difficult person, and he can not do that. What I mean by that is really a way to say thank you, because I get very personal here. So if you're uncomfortable with that, then you feel free to hide your camera and you don't have to be seen or whatever. But both of you could have reasons to not have been here today with me. I mean, I had to reschedule this, and I also am, Andrea, like, I is victim of my worst habit of falling into depressions and then ignoring the world for like a year and then realizing it's been a year and not a day. And then going back and saying, hey, I really am back now. And then it's like a year goes by, but I feel like it was just another day. And then
you're not the only one who does that. I do that plenty of times myself, as Diana can attest to.
But I just want to say, like, I hope and that you both know through the years, having your involvement in every which way that you've been involved has meant so much to me, and being here and talking about this means a lot to me. And I'm hoping that moving forward, my husband is trying not to make noises, but they're making noises, so hopefully people don't hear that in the background. I really want to keep showcasing and helping get the word out about any projects that you have, or just anything that I can do. And I'm part of launching this. And one of the things I've discovered about live streaming is you can't procrastinate. You can't, when I record an interview, it's like, if that depression hits, good luck editing. But if I'm able to go live, it's like, it's something I found that allows me to follow through and do something. So being willing to do this, which isn't comfortable for everybody, means a lot to me. And I hope that I can showcase more of your work moving forward. And then before we end it, please tell people, both of you, can promote anything, where people can find you, if you want, if you have anything you want to direct people towards, like, use, like, go as shameless as you want. Do it.
Andrea,
Whoever
go
wants
ahead.
to go first.
Oh, okay. People can find me online at Andrea Wolanin on most major social media sites. It's spelled.
What was the last name exactly?
Wolanin.
No, it wasn't.
Wolanin.
Yes.
Andrea Wolanin. You can find me online at Andrea Wolanin, which is spelled. That's why I said Wolanin, is
I
because
know.
the spelling is going to mess people
I was
up
trying
now.
to bring in some entertaining stuff.
No,
here.
you're good. You're good. So my first name is spelled Andrea, which is sort of the normal spelling, and then my last name is spelled Wolanian. NIN, which you can remember as Whoa, 9 Inch Nails, or Whoa, LA 9 Inch Nails.
I like it. And I'll put it in the notes too, so people will just be able to find it as well.
Yeah, there's that too. But yeah, all social media. I don't have anything out right now. I'm on my own post-production journey that has been taking over 2 years on a film and pre-production on another piece. So I don't really have anything to promote there.
Well, it sounds like you're busy and you'll have plenty to talk about in the future.
I can be found on most social medias as Diana M. Porter, M as in make you remember this. And I currently have a film in festivals called Subscribed about our relationship with artificial intelligence, and it'll be playing YoFi Fest in Yonkers and online, and also Shock Fest, both during the first week of December. So if you're interested in seeing it and you're not in Yonkers, you can watch it online at either Shockfest or YoFi. And you can also find out more information about me and my acting and stuff like that on dianaporter.com.
Awesome. And if you would send me at the end of this, email me a link to where people can watch it online to get tickets or whatever, and I can include that too. So
Totally.
awesome. Well, thank you guys for being so flexible and just awesome artists and people that are really in this for the right reason and making art that is so necessary. And I'm forever grateful to both of you. So this is always that awkward like Zoom moment where it's like, okay.
I want to thank you, Hannah, for having us here, and also for providing a platform for this important work that can so easily be overlooked and not find a home. So it is an incredible thing that you do, providing a home for that.
Well, I hope people know that even if I don't get to my email, it's only because I'm behind the scenes working on coming up with stuff like this. So I appreciate you both, and I hope you have a wonderful night. And thank you to everyone who is watching. I am assuming, I can't tell if there is questions, but if they are, we will get them answered for you. So you guys are welcome to go, and I will be hitting this magical end button, and I guess we'll all just disappear.